everyone. So this is going to be the audio from the live stream that we did on April 18th for a couple of us, the owner of the Poly Inclusion page, Miso, the longest admin, and myself. There are several other admins for the Poly Inclusion page on Instagram, but when we did the live stream, a couple people were watching it, intended to save the video, and the video in Twitch did not save. In the future, we'll live stream to YouTube and shouldn't have that problem again. But for now, you can have the audio and you can look at our faces. This is basically how the stream went. You just won't get to see them talking. We did the audio and the video over Skype, so sometimes you might hear some of those glitches as Skype is wont to do. But here is the live stream audio that we did on the 18th, and we are looking forward to doing more of these with even more of the admins on the page. Thanks for being part of the community and liking and following both here on YouTube and on Instagram, and enjoy the episode.
Hello, welcome. I am terribly awkward, but people are probably used to that by now, because if you're watching this, that means that you've been following our page Poly Inclusion for hopefully quite some times. I usually do live streams on the page, and I'm the owner of both Poly Inclusion and Poly Inclusive Cupid's Match, both pages on Instagram that I started over a year ago. And I'm here with three of my admins who always help me run the page. They always answer people's comments, their DMs. And I wanted them to introduce themselves as well. I am Alana, and we have Mark, and we have Miso.
Hey.
Hello. Something has happened to my photo. I don't know if you guys can see me.
Not really.
It looks like you have your thumb over the camera.
But it's not. That's what's... Oh,
flip. You have your camera flipped.
I don't know how. I didn't touch...
We love email user. So Miso has been with us longer than anybody else. And I always say, now that she's been with us since like 2,000 followers, she's definitely the page's manager. So I think that you should go first.
Okay. If you follow the page, yes, you know me. I'm usually very, very wordy, but I try to get to the heart of the matter. Bear with me. I'm Miso. I'm 21. Just celebrating my 21st birthday in March. I've basically been poly my whole life without really knowing what I've been doing, and that's what it was until, what year? 2020. So 2017, 2018 is when I officially started poly. And I've been learning and refining what I do. So I think that's good introduction.
Me?
Yes.
Say things? Oh.
Yeah, sure.
I'm Mark. I have the rainbow on Instagram. If you interact with anyone who comments or message you with a rainbow, that's me. I realized that I was poly, that poly is something that I want and that works for me in December 2018. So not that long ago, a year and a half ago or so, before all the coronavirus and we were forced to stay home. So, yeah, not a long history with it, but so I'm interested in the topic we'll talk about today as well. But it's felt like the right thing for a while, but it wasn't. I grew up very religious, and was in religion myself for a while, and that's not a thing. Being gay is not a thing. LGBTQIA+ is not a thing, and being poly is not a thing. So it was much later down the road in my 30s when I bumped into this. So that's my background with it. And I don't remember how long, maybe a year I've been on the Instagram chatting with folks and posting memes, I find.
You are also the only guy who helps run the page. So he is our one male view. So for the guys, I started the page March 2nd. when my partner Terry, who you'll probably hear sometimes in the background because he's setting up his new laptop he bought, I was on a break from working, and me and him had been together for a year, and he was okay with me being non-monogamous, and we have a relationship agreement, but he wasn't really doing anything himself, and he kind of came to me one day and he was like, "Am I allowed to do the same things you are?" And I said, "That's the whole point." So I honestly made the Instagram to teach him, what are his options, what are the things that he could get into, what are the things that might interest them, and it just blew up. And I'm still dumbfounded every day when I check the page and I just see how many people, send us such great DMs and stuff. And now it's grew to the point where there's 2 pages and we have like 8 admins, and now we're starting a YouTube channel. So it makes me happy. And I think I'm actually one of the youngest people on the page too. I just turned 21 in February. Ooh. And I have been poly probably my whole life, but didn't really realize it till I was 17, because that's not something people really ever talk about, especially from Virginia. It's on the Bible Belt in the United States, so like people know you're gay, and people might know you're trans, but it's very, very religious based in some areas around here. So it's like you exist, but it's like we hate you, so, so you don't really get to learn about that kind of things, that kind of stuff until, you're a little older in this area. So I kind of knew I wasn't straight and figured out I was pansexual probably when I was like 14, and then 17, I kind of realized, oh, I don't just have, I don't just want to like date all these people. It's not just me, like, because, I always admit to people, when I was a teenager, 14, 15, stuff like that, I would talk to other people long distance when I was dating people, which isn't something I should have done. But I didn't know that I could have done that the right way. I didn't know there was an option. So when I found that option out, when I turned 18, just to make things easier being an adult, I just kind of nose dived in. I was just ready. Now, jump 3 years later. Now we're here.
Here we are.
Bottom, now we're here.
I don't know if you guys can hear him singing.
We can hear Terry singing.
Okay, good. That is the unofficial commentary we need on these live streams. It's just Terry singing. The soundboard. We have Terry. Oh, wait, we're going to have to bleep that. Oh, no.
Maybe not.
Probably what everyone will notice, and we actually made this comment before, is that even with me and Miso running the page the longest, me being the owner, Mark is definitely the one who is most prepared for things like this. He is a part of so many other live streams, and he just has all the right equipment. And right now my phone is on a spice rack, so that will definitely be in the comments of these videos. So I'd like to point that out now and give appreciation to Mark, because he's the one who's probably going to have to edit every time I cuss. So I just want to give that shout out.
Are we not cussing? You decide not to do that?
Yeah, you can always decide not to do that.
Yeah, but the thing is I'm from the South, and it's a natural thing. So I will try.
If we leave it on Twitch, we can cuss all we want. If we put it on YouTube, they may take it down.
I don't really care about the money. I more care about the education, because I don't make any money from running the page. The money'd be nice.
I make a lot of money. What do you mean? I'm independently wealthy from the page.
I think so far someone has sent me a shirt because I shouted them out, and I told them they didn't have to, but they insisted. And then when we did a giveaway, they sent me some extras for the giveaway. So that's the only compensation I've got so far. The real compensation is talking to all the followers.
Yeah. Which in such a short time is great. 13,000+ followers.
It still amazes me how the page is that big.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's gotten that big, but it makes me happy. And it makes me happy that we're able to talk about the things like we want to talk about today. And I think the first thing we wanted to talk about was basically, having a poly relationship. Oh, and not knocking over your phone. Having a poly relationship, but also having a relationship that is long-term.
Yeah, because I think that's probably one of from the books that I've read and the people that I've talked to, and some people do poly this way, and there's like relationship anarchy and other versions, but that's one of the misconceptions that everybody in poly is just, you go 6 months and then you find a new person, then you find a new person, then you find a new person, you're just going in between new people and having different additional or new relationships all the time. And from the people that I know and from my experience, that has not been the case. That's not generally how it works, for me at least.
For me,
yeah, and also it's just there's just this so big misconception about relationships, and I think we all stagnate. Like we see the popular like triple or triad, and then there's nothing else. Like there's no way to grow your relationship, and I feel most people feel that, oh, we're steady, so now the only thing to do is add a new partner, and that's how we grow our relationship. And I feel there's got to be more ways to do that than keep continuously adding partners throughout your life. Although I'm not harsh.
I think some people kind of, I almost see it as people trying to play barrel monkeys with each other.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been holding on to this person long enough, and I think the chain is strong enough that we can grab onto one more. And, if that chain lasts, maybe we can do another one. And it's like, and some people, I think a lot of people, they just don't realize, because, you don't know who is and who isn't comfortable with it, because you have to have, people, when you're in a relationship with people, them being okay with you doing this. But it doesn't just have to be, your person A and then you have your person B. You guys both don't have to date C. Like, one can date C and maybe B can date E and something like that. But, not everyone is comfortable with that. But I also don't think a lot of people even know that you can do that.
Yeah, because so often in the media, when polyamory is discussed, it's always a close-knit, a close triad. That's the model that people. And not everyone is comfortable with the close triad, or that's not the poly that everyone practices.
I think definitely for me, like, I like to say that I am polyamorous, but me and my partner, like, we have discussed, I've even asked him, because, he's the one who's newer at it than I am, if he was comfortable us dating the same person. He doesn't want to. I even asked him if it was a guy, if it was a girl, if you started dating somebody and they liked me, or if I started dating somebody and they liked you. He's just, some people just don't like it. And for me, I don't care if, it's me and 3 other people and we all date each other, or if it's me and, I have, my 2 partners over here and then they have theirs over there, and maybe one of our 2 partners, maybe they share each other. I don't really think it should matter as long as everybody is okay with what is going on. I think a lot of people don't realize that they have that option, that there really are all of these different combinations that you could do.
Definitely true. There's also, I don't think some people realize that a monogamous person date a polyamorous person, not have to be polyamorous.
That's a question we get a lot.
It also feels like it's you're either poly with me or you're not going to be with me. And it's like, some people are just monogamous and they just feel more comfortable dating one person themselves. That's just the way they are. And if you truly love them, you don't give them ultimatums.
Yeah. Like, and I think some people, like, we always get that question, can I still date, my partner if they're poly? And it comes with the same comment, like, if you are okay with that, you're okay with that, and if you don't want to date anybody else, then you don't have to date anybody else. But, if you aren't okay with it, and, you have to express that to that person and tell them, it's not something I'm comfortable with. And at that point, y'all have to come to, there's either y'all stay together and you work through it, or y'all break up and you go your separate ways and you go from there. Because at the end of the day, there really is only 2 options when it comes to stuff like that.
Communicate or break up.
Yeah, honestly, I feel I want to wear that as a shirt, because I think so many people need to have that reminder. Talk about it and get over it and work through it, or just end it and move on. Because life is too short to have the same argument every day. It really is.
Yeah. So when it comes to some of what we want to talk about on this one is how do we talked about before we started live, sort of like longer term goals, because Alan said that when that sometimes like
You just had to put that in there.
we talked about that, like even in a job interview or when you're in elementary school or middle school, we talk like children are asked, or in a job you're asked, what are your 5-year goals? What are your 10-year goals? So how do we talk about that for the polyamory community? What are some of the things that we like? Is that a thing that people can and should be thinking about instead of day to day, or what are your thoughts on that?
Definitely for me, like before we got started here, was, in my current relationship I'm in right now, and this was just kind of a way that I was brought up and taught. I don't know if it's just, in my area and stuff, but, because I honestly, I live in the woods, or at least I used to before I moved into my apartment. It's all about, at the end of the day, the only person who truly is going to take care of yourself is you. So the goals I try to set in my life are goals that, that are good, for me personally. And I've been trying to help, my boyfriend Terry learn some of that, because he had a very much different upbringing than I did. So I've been kind of helping him get on track to where, he wants to be, which includes like, he got his driver's license. Right now he's trying to buy a brand new car. And for me, it was me moving out of my parents' house, me having my own vehicle that my mom, she doesn't have to worry about, and being able to, have my own bank account, have my own job. Right now, my goals are I'm paying off some of my credit card, and I'm putting some money in savings, and then I'm going to get some tattoos. So those are the personal goals I have. I think a lot of people always want to have mutual goals that's good for their relationship, and then they just completely forget about themselves.
I mean, I think that couples should at one point sit down and be like, what do we both want out of this relationship? Why are we together? And it's great to have, like, discuss your personal goals, but you should definitely still discuss like a couple goals. Like in poly, I think when it becomes more than just like 3 people, the whole polycule should at one point be like, what do we see our future being? Do we see certain couple groups moving together? Do we get a house together? How are we going to discuss like kids? At what point do we feel comfortable introducing kids into like the group? And if I personally don't want to be married or really care about it, but if someone in the polycule does care about marriage, how is that going to work? Like things like that. And like it may not necessarily follow the monogamous relationship escalator, staircase, stairway, whatever it's called, but there are still certain things that you can discuss as when do we want to do them? How do we do them? Who all is going to be included in this? Like,
yeah, I think I know that when I started with polyamory, with non-monogamy, I didn't have anyone to ask that stuff to. So when we get DMs and comments and messages all the time, especially from new folks who are new to polyamory and then are kind of looking toward, can I even do this at all? And what does that look like in the future? Can I have this partner who, like we were saying, who is monogamous and doesn't want to be polyamorous, and questions like that. So part of what we don't, or I guess when I started, which was not that long ago, but part of what I'm seeing is we're becoming better as a community of talking about things like this, about longer term goals, or how the relationship staircase looks different for everybody. Because with monogamy, there's one set, like, this is what you do. You date, and then you get engaged, you get married, you have kids, you buy a house, and it all generally looks kind of the same, even with like shows like Modern Family representing sometimes it's different, But generally, that's everyone has that ingrained in their minds. But for polyamory, it could be anything you want. So you don't only have 2 people, you could have 3, 4, 5 people. And like you were saying, maybe no one's ever going to get married. And so that's not even a step on the staircase for you.
I think another problem.
Yeah, I think definitely, like, we have milestones that we expect relationships, especially monogamy. Like we were saying, it's you date, engage, baby, marriage. Like you can do those in all sorts of orders, but monogamous relationships tend to just, those are the milestones that a relationship has. What are the milestones for a poly relationship? Like, what do those even look like?
Yeah, and that's actually what I was going to say. A lot of people, they come in the DMs or they leave comments and stuff asking them, like, what should my next step be? Like, I've done this and I have this person and maybe they have a third person, or maybe, that other person has another person, and they're asking us the next step is. And, a lot of people, it's not about, what is the next step. It's about what you want. And people want that. They want that template of, how in monogamy, you have that relationship escalator and it tells you what to do. And I think a lot of people go poly pride pages, asking for that template, like what is next. And the is that there is no template. It's about what you and the people in your life and the people that are affected by what you're doing, like your kids, your partners, your wife, your husband, whatever, the people who are all involved in this, y'all sitting down at some point, like how you said, Miso, and just being like, hey, like, what are we doing? We're all happy, or, they two got a problem and them two got a problem, and, like, what is going on, and, what are we doing here? Like, how are we going to do with the kids and stuff? It's really all about your specific situation. And that's something I always point out. What is so beautiful about the poly community is that, even when you're monogamous, and even if you have people who aren't straight, who aren't cis, it's still kind of, there's 2 people, they usually have the same situation, usually they live together, or maybe they don't and they hang out all the time. But when you're poly, it's like you have all these different people in your life and everyone has a different schedule, and some of them have kids and other ones are married. And it's like all these beautiful combinations of all these stories that each relationship is just as interesting as the last one.
Yeah, and that's what's different about poly, that people who have been monogamous, who don't start out that way, don't have any experience with. I know I didn't. That it can be, it basically is a choose your own adventure. You choose what your relationship and what happens for
I love
you,
that.
what your staircase looks like. It's not the same for any one of us. I was like, for me, that I've got folks a couple of other couples and thruples and whatever that I know that are poly are like me, where I was in an established relationship, I'm married, and then I realized I'm poly, and we brought other people alongside of us. Some folks are not even necessarily, like, we can do a different video on the different varieties, but the point being, I guess, that with all the different varieties of types of relationship, there's just as many varieties of goals and milestones, what you want it. So like you guys were saying, what you want it to be, what you want your relationship to be, and what you all agree on. And that's the more difficult thing about poly than monogamy, that you have to be good at communication. And if you're not going to have a good time. It's not going to be great for you.
And people, I always love the questions or like the comments or, the DMs they get where people, they're kind of asking like, what should I do? Like, this is the situation. Because we get these all the time. And, we love getting these questions. But it's usually the answer is you guys need to sit down and talk. I know I've seen, some of the other admins and myself so many times, literally, they send us their story and, we talk to them for a long time and we finally get down to what they really need help with. And it's just at the end of the day, like, all you really can do with the situation is sit down and talk about it. Because if you don't sit down and talk about it, like, people aren't mind readers. Even if you've been married for 20 years, or even if you've been dating for, 6 months, or he's your baby daddy and y'all have 15 kids, at the end of the day, no one is a mind reader. They really, really aren't. And as much as, and this is why I don't date women, I love women, they're great, but they're crazy. Women always want you to read their mind, and I do the exact same thing. I do the exact same thing.
We can hear Terry in the background.
I do the exact same thing. And that's... Oh, yeah, you're funny. But the thing is like, people, they really aren't mind readers. So when it gets down to it, like at some point, like we said, you either have to communicate or break up. Really, I'm really gonna make some shirts, some merch that say communication or break up. Honestly,
I think it also comes down to that we, as a society, we like to know what our options are. It's like, okay,
Americans
so,
especially.
I mean, like even when I was monogamous, it was really like, okay, here are my two choices. I date men or I don't date. Like, and so I was like, okay, so this is what I do. Like, we like knowing we can follow things. And I feel bad that we're not giving people, like, here are some, like, example stones that you may want to consider. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to put that out there and be like,
yeah.
I feel like people might take it and be like, these are the steps that you have to consider. These are the steps that are firm. And it's really like, these are suggestions about steps that you may want to consider or talk about with your partner, because they may not be stones you want to even touch. Like, I know there's a bunch of people who do hand fastings and other commitment ceremonies, but there are other people who are just like, dating is fine. Like, I trust that you're committed to me. I don't need a ceremony for it. And I say this as someone who wants to be in the wedding planning industry and a wedding planner. And I'm like, yeah, you can just date. It's fine. Like, you don't necessarily need to have a wedding. I love weddings, but I never really want to get married. I would love to have a wedding without any of the, like, ceremony. Just, like, have a reception. It's like, yes, this is my person. I didn't want to do the whole, I just want a wedding. Like, and that's perfectly fine, because I'm not, people would say that and be like, monogamy, and be like, oh, you're commitment phobic. No, I just really don't need that, like, reaffirmation, like, because that's what, for me, commitment ceremonies are. Reaffirmation, and, like, proclamation that this is someone that I am committed to. This will be someone that I want in my life throughout my life cycle. And I don't necessarily feel that's necessary. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you want to throw a $5,000 ball just for me and bring me presents, yeah.
That's the funny thing I find about, one of the funny things, because I think I said something contradictory sort of at the beginning, but one of the funnier things about polyamory is because we have monogamy as the, like, this is what it is and what everything should look like, the idea being for however long it has been for humans, that you find your person and then you're just with them forever, whether or not it works out, whether or not it's healthy, whether or not anyone's abusive, you're just with them forever and that's all you have. In polyamory, because it's such a different relationship structure in the first place, at least the folks that I know are much more willing to say, I love you, this is not working for either of us or for one of us. The best loving thing I can do for you is to end the relationship. And so that's a different thing. Like, while we're talking about long-term goals, that's another thing you can figure out. What are your deal breakers with your polycule or with your person or two people or however many? What are your deal breakers as you go along? And sometimes it might change and you just have to keep communicating about that. You might have different goals in 10 years from now than your partner or partners. And as long as you're communicating about that, you'll figure out whether or not that's a deal breaker for you. And or whether that's fine, because everybody's going to change. So if the goals change, as long as everybody's talking about it, it should generally be okay. But yeah, like you were saying, I think it's hard to say, for us to say, these are what some of the goals and the milestones could be, because then, like Alan was saying, people might hold on to that and say, well, these are my steps then, and this is what it should look like. And I'm in therapy. I have been for a while, and I like when my therapist tells me not to say any, don't say should, because that doesn't exist. Just because somebody else does it that way or it works for them doesn't mean that you should do it that way.
I think that's definitely a reason why, like, on the page, like, we don't really tell people, like, oh, this is what you should be doing. We tell people, like, this is what y'all can do, which is trust each other, you know, be honest with each other and communicate, because those are three things I think that can apply to every single relationship, every single, you know, partnership, and, you know, every single anything is, you know, whatever your rules are, whatever your agreement is, whatever, you know, whatever, you know, whatever everything is if you do those three things to the best of your abilities, even if y'all end up breaking up in the end, like, at least you've done the best that you can do, you know. And a lot of people, like, some people really love it when you say, like, oh, well, you're only dating to get married, and some people really hate it, you know, like, oh, you shouldn't just be dating to get married. But my thing is like, especially in this community, everyone, I think, is very honest about what they want. And it's like, okay, if you want to get married, that's cool, but it's probably not going to be me, because I don't like to get married. I don't want to get married. So I think it's very important too, when you talk about the things you want in life, especially when, you know, when you're non-monogamous, because, like, a good example, like, for me, like, I want to own a restaurant. Like, I plan to have a restaurant in my 40s. I planned in my 30s to be either finished with school, culinary school, or be going to culinary school, whatever. And I'm definitely not the person who's going to have kids, because if I have a restaurant, that is going to be my kid. I'll be working there 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, you know, whatever I do. I won't have the proper time to be that parent to kids, which, one, I physically can't have because of my medical issues, and two, don't want to have. But that doesn't mean that if my partner has kids, I won't be in their life. So it's definitely something you have to talk about with people. Like, if you want kids, it's not going to be with me. Like, you can't even get them out of me. So you're definitely going to have to find someone who will give them to you. So I always think that's very important too.
Also, I personally feel that you should talk about people who are going to be in your life. Even if, like, I have a platonic soulmate, or it's someone I claim to be my platonic soulmate. They've been in my life for going on 6 years now, and I can't see my life without them. Like, no matter what, they're going to be in my life. You have to be comfortable with that. And, like, we've already made plans. Well, they don't want kids. I want kids. And I'm like, this person is definitely going to be sharing in our child rearing, because this is someone that I'm like, this is my child's godparent. You're not going to change my mind. Like, there's nothing that they will do in the next 10 years that's going to change my mind, because we've been through so much together. Things like that, definitely you need to communicate. And often, sometimes, like, we only get one side of the story of the issue. So we definitely can't be like, you should do this, because we don't know what the other person is thinking, why they've done certain things. Like, there are situations that I've really wanted to be like, this sounds like a really, really toxic situation. Please break up with them. But again, I've only heard that one side. I don't know all the other emotions connected to it. It's really hard to just be like, these are your options, when it's like, there's part of me that's really just like, please get out of this situation. Please leave.
Yeah, I agree.
I think definitely too, like, I always like to tell people, especially on lives, it's more on live chats, you know, when I'm giving people advice, is I always like to give people, like, here's a disclaimer. I'm only 21, you know, so I've only had X amount of experience. I've only been allowed to have so much experience and so much existence. So, you know, whatever advice I give you is purely speculation from a stranger on the internet. So, you know, take everything I say with a grain of sand. I always tell people, take everything that anyone says, even if it's the best advice you've ever heard in your entire life, take it with a grain of sand. Because, like how you were saying, like, you don't, like, when someone's coming to you and about the relationship, you don't know the other person involved in the relationship side. So you always have, at least I try to, because I don't want to be responsible for someone choosing the wrong decision and then their life's ruined. I don't want to be involved. So I always tell people, you know, here are your facts about who I am. You don't know who I am. I'm a random person on the internet. I'm only 21, but I'll try. and I'll try my best. And that's all I can guarantee you.
Yeah.
See, it's hard because sometimes people come to you and they're asking, like, is breaking up the right choice? And you really want to give them and be like, from everything you've told me, breaking up is the right choice for you. And some people do need that external
right choice 3 months ago.
Huh?
I was saying, it was the right choice 3 months ago when people ask that stuff. It's just you don't want to be involved in case it truly isn't the right choice, And it's so hard to tell those people when it's like it's very obvious it is the right choice, but it's like, I don't know this person. I don't know what really went on.
I personally don't want to be responsible for putting them in danger because I don't know how violent their partner is. Some people don't take a breakup really well, so I don't want to be responsible for putting them in a violent situation or messy situation. And also, breakups are hard for most people. Like, it's a hard pain, and you don't want to be the one making that decision to inflict that on someone. Be like, but sometimes people do need that external validation in order for them to be like, okay, so someone from the outside is also seeing this. I'm not just crazy, or if they've been gaslit for so long that they're starting to doubt their own self-worth, and it's like, yeah, you are worthy of not being treated like absolute shit. Please leave.
We definitely had people like that on the page, and it's you're the one who catches them. And I always, at the end of the conversation, when I finally am able to see it, is them saying, you know what? I already knew the right answer, but the advice you gave me just confirmed what I already knew. So yeah, you are right. A lot of people really do just want to be like, I know what's right, but I need someone who doesn't know what's going on to let me know that I'm not doing the wrong thing.
Outside party.
Third party.
But not right now. Not an outside party. It's coronavirus time.
Oh yeah, no. Inside party. I think a lot of people who come to our page too, because we're very open on the page about saying, come to the DMs. We're here to help. I think some people forget that it's not just one person or two people who run the page. It's like 8 of us. So what Mark may say, someone may not know it was Mark, and then now they're mad at the entire page. It's like, so we all try to be very general with our answers. Like, this is a page on Instagram. We are strangers on the internet. Like, you do have to realize that it's all not this serious. Like, it's something I always try to say on the live stream too. Like, I don't want to talk about things that are super, super controversial, things that aren't related to what the page is about, because there are other people who help me run the page who may not agree with my view, because this page isn't about, this topic. It's about, poly, which you guys would have probably, you guys are good people. You probably agree with me with almost anything. But, for people like the new admins who just joined, we haven't gotten the time to know them. So it's always, especially on the page, like, we don't want someone come on the page saying, this person gave me advice and then I got a divorce and now I'm out $50,000. It's like, well, that was this person and they're not on the page anymore, So we all try to tread very lightly because we want to help people, but it's like, we also have to keep the page neutral because it is like, it's this safe space that's grown to like almost out of my control, to where people depend on this page for information and to feel okay. So I just I want to keep it there, and I want to keep it kind of like no man's land. Like everyone, you can go on here, but you shouldn't really fight, and everyone just it's very neutral.
I think for a lot of us too, it's like, I think most of us are more liberal leaning than typical, so we trying to make sure that people who are conservative and poly don't feel like, oh, I can't go to them for anything, because they're still poly and they still have issues that they want to talk about. We want to make it feel like you feel comfortable talking about that and don't worry that you're going to be attacked or anything like that. So
definitely,
it is like trying to manage your own personal biases, because hey, I've seen toxic relationships. Like, we've all had different experiences with them. So, certain things are big, giant red flags to me that might not be a red flag to someone else, and it's like, oh yeah, that's just normal relationship behavior to me. And I'm like, no, that's super, super bad. Please, like, so like it's kind of hard to juggle that. Like, okay, this is my personal red flag. This might not be your red flag. Like, there are different things that people are willing to put up with than I am. Like, I'm known from within my friend groups for being like one of those people who just goes, nope, I'm out. Like, I break up relationships. Like, my friends are just like, I don't bother getting to know any of your significant others until like you've been with them for 3 months. Because usually within that 3 months, I usually find something and just go like, nah, I'm not putting up with that. Like, that's because I'm just like, I know what I want and I know what I find unacceptable in a relationship. So I know I'm really a very harsh critic. So I try not to be with other people, but like sometimes bias does lean in. We're human beings. We have bias. We can't ever cut that out.
I definitely, like, for me personally, when it comes to relationships, like, I'm pansexual. So, like, it's kind of open spectrum. I don't really care. Give me a random card in the deck. We'll see what happens. But when it comes to girls or people who are more feminine, like, I'm very mature for my age. I'm very mature for a girl where I live. So usually girls I date who are my age, they're very immature, and I can't handle it because women are supposed to be more mature than men.
I don't do well with
over there. It's okay.
I don't do well with emotional, like, you try and emotionally blackmail me, you'll find a dead zone. I'm just gonna be like, okay, that's nice, bye-bye. Like, yeah. I don't do well clingy, I don't do well. Like, so my best friend has apparently thought that I was aromantic this whole time, that she's known me for like the last 7 years. And I've just been like, love is a thing, but like, I don't feel it. So we're good. And she's like, you know what aromantic is? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a term. Like,
I love that. I'm going to make you a shirt that says that.
I'm like, people really do, like, people are like, you must be in love with it. I'm like, no, I just, like, I care about my partners, but there's not that, like, deep, like, oh my God, if they die right now, like, I'm going to be super, like, emotional, and, like, I'm just, like, I will be sad, but, like, I will move on.
That's one of the things that's really nice about polyamory as opposed to monogamy, where if you are generally or somewhat aromantic and you're only with one person, and many people do need that. So if you're not stuck, but if you're with one person who's aromantic and you need that, you just don't get that. But if you're polyamorous, you may have partners that you're not romantic with or sexual with even, but they're just as important as the ones that you are, which is not a typical monogamous thing. Like the monogamy that I've seen, it wasn't for me when I was, but that typically the monogamy is you two, and that's all you have. And if the guy goes and hangs out with his friends, or the girl goes out and hangs out with her friends, it's a big problem, and you're out too much and things like that. Like there can be and are relationships that are just as important as your primary ones if you're in hierarchical, or as your romantic and sexual relationships. And that's one of the things that's really nice about polyamory, as opposed to you are with just this one person and you got to get everything from them. And if they don't have it, then like if I have something, if I've got a partner and I need something, but they can't give it to me, I can get it from somebody else, but not in monogamy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was a big issue for me when I was monogamous, because, like, I would feel suffocated because I would try to provide something that's not natural for me to provide. Like, I'm not one for grand romantic gestures. Like, I don't know have you guys seen the show American Housewives?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
I know of it, and I've seen like clips online.
The husband in that family, he's all for, like, he loves grand romantic gestures. Like, for Valentine's Day, he wants to fill the house with flowers, or get, like, a singing quartet for his wife. And, like I'm just like, wow. Like, exactly. I would feel so bad. I'd be like, being with someone like that would be like, I don't know how to respond to this. I don't want to respond to this. Like, I could not be in a monogamous relationship with that person, because I'd just be like, you are too much. Like, every year,
you need 3 other people to handle how much you are.
I'd be like, okay, 3 other people here, please take on his romantic affection. I will be like, I love the more mundane parts of a relationship where, like, the companionship, you spend time with each other, and, like, just doing everyday activities with someone is more my speed versus, like, Valentine's Day or Sweetest Day or anniversaries. Like, the pressures that are on those things really just make me feel like it makes you feel inadequate as a human being, and that's not something that I want from my relationship. Like, I want to be with someone, and there's just so many facets to a human being that you can't ever perfectly line up each one and be like, yes, they match perfectly. People are not puzzle pieces that match. They're unique, and there needs to be so many, like, there needs to be a whole puzzle to fit it. Does that make sense? It worked in my head, but it may not work out loud.
No, that doesn't make sense.
No, and I think I actually have posted something kind of similar to that saying on the page before. Kind of like, you are not a puzzle that needs to be completed. Like, a lot of, like, the monogamous, I don't really know what you call it, but, like, when you're trying to, like, you know, hype up those, like, relationships, like, oh, relationship goals, you know, like, stuff like that, you know, on online and stuff, and on TikTok and Instagram or whatever, you know, a lot of those relationship goals are really just, like, the most, like, heterosexual monogamous things ever. And I always tell people, like, at my job, because at my job people know that I'm not monogamous, so, and, like, it's, at first, when I first told them, it was, like, the coolest thing ever, and now, like, no one really cares, which is good, because I do enough educating on the page. But I always tell them, like, I have nothing against straight monogamous people. I have nothing against them. I just feel bad for you. I feel bad for you because you don't have a choice. You know, you don't have any options. Like, it's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's all okay. We accept you, be whatever, but I feel bad for you. Like, me, like, you know, I haven't dated girls in 2 years because it's too much, but I've been thinking about dating another one. And, you know, I have a boyfriend, and, you know, maybe I could get a partner who is non-binary or something like that. I don't really care if they're trans or if they're whatever. Like, but if you're a straight monogamous person, like, you know, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with it. I just feel bad for you.
See, I it's not that I feel bad for monogamous people. It's just that it's just confusing for me, because I'm like, you're willing to accept not having all your needs met because most of your needs are being met. Like, you deserve to have all of your needs met. Like, I don't know. It just, for me, it feels like people are accepting less than they should. Yes. Less than you deserve. Like, I want you to be completely happy in every facet. And that doesn't necessarily, and I feel like that's why we see, like, an uptake in people who are getting divorced, like, 30 years in, like 20 plus years in, and they're like, oh, they're realizing as they come to the end of life that they deserve to be completely happy.
Yeah. I don't know if me saying I feel bad for them is the right word. Like I said, it's like, no disrespect, you know, whatever, do your thing. It's just, it's like, I don't know. It's just like, I have so many options in my life, and I'm very happy with how I'm living. And I just feel like, you know, because of course you can't make somebody be gay. You can't make somebody be, you know, monogamous or poly. You can't make anybody do anything. But from my own personal standpoint, you know, it's kind of like they're missing out on the party. You know, they were fashionably late.
Yeah, I think we definitely got blown up on Instagram in the comments when we posted something like that. I remember people going wild. People
were kind of upset, but it's like no offense, like, all respect. It's just, you guys are a little late to the party. I don't know, like, all the good appetizers are gone and the soda's flat, but you're more than welcome to stay around and help clean up.
I think it's more like, what's it called? Like, you don't limit yourself in the type of friends you have. Like, you can have a friend that you go for to party because that's the party girl. That's who you do that with. And there's, like, the friend you have wine tastings and cookie nights with or whatnot. Like, you have different friends that you do different things with. Like, they have, like, and I just don't see why you would want to limit to, like, this is my one friend and we do all of these things together. Even if we don't necessarily like, my friend wants to go to Comic-Con. I never want to step foot in a Comic-Con place ever in my life. Like,
Same.
but if I was that one friend like that they have, I would be going to Comic-Con because they need a friend there. And if they have more, they had a Comic-Con friend, they'd be like, here, take your Comic-Con friend. I'm good. I'd yes, compromise is an essential part, and like doing things for your partner that don't necessarily mean that you love is like a good part of a relationship. But if there's something you truly, truly detest, not saying I detest Comic-Con, I just never want to step.
We're gonna get blown up again.
Put the time out real quick. I think like another thing with like I said, not trying to be disrespectful to people who are monogamous or whatever, whatever. But my thing is like a lot of people who are monogamous, they're very afraid to touch each other. Like, and that sounds weird, but it's like people who, like a lot of, I'll just kind of say like a lot of the world is not very comfortable with their sexuality. They're not very comfortable with their self. And, and of course there are the people who are asexual, and no one's really even comfortable talking about people who are asexual and people who are aromantic and stuff. It's, like there are people who are comfortable about like masturbating and stuff. And it's like people are so afraid to touch each other, but it's like everyone wants to have sex, and it's like, oh, you're supposed to have sex with all these people, and you're supposed to have all these you're supposed to have this body count, but you're not. And you're supposed to like not touch anybody. Everyone's supposed to like, you're in a relationship and that's the person you have sex with. And it's like, like everyone's so afraid to touch each other. Like it's okay to hug your friend. Like I think it's also guys too. Like guys are so surprised when they see girls like, in high school, they're at a sleepover, and guys like to ask girls, like, what do you guys do at the sleepover? It's like, I don't know, we lay on each other and braid hair and I don't know, give lap dances. Like girls are so like, girls will touch your boobs and they'll be like, yeah, this one's a little heavier than that one and your butt looks great. But like it's like monogamy is like the guy version of like dudes hanging out, like you can't touch each other. So it's like, it's okay. Like it's cool to have your friends and y'all are hanging out and stuff. And if you have a friend you have sex with, it's not like a big deal. Like, I don't know if all that makes sense, but it's like I always see people who are monogamous, they're very scared to touch other people. I don't know if that made sense, but it makes sense in my head.
I kind of get where you're going with it, because like the way my family's weird in that like there's poly being practiced, but we try really hard to be monogamous. It's monogamy. I don't know why, but that's what we do. And so like when we moved to America, I was no longer surrounded by like poly relationships, and it was no longer like a thing, and it was only monogamy. And then I was like, people were like, oh, if you're in a relationship, you can't do this thing because that means you're giving like signals to this person that you're flirting with them. And I'm just like, but why? Like, me hugging my male friend is not me being like, I love you, please date me. Like, that's not, I'm just showing them affection. Like, yeah. Like, it feels like monogamy, it seems like affection is only reserved for the people in your relationship.
Yes, it's such a better way to put it.
It's only for the people you are not sexually attracted to. Like, you can only show affection to the person you're in a relationship with, and then the people, the gender or sex or whatever that you are not sexually attracted to, and there's no chance of anything happening. Those are the things that you can do. Like, women are encouraged to be each other's emotional crutches, and then the emotional crutch of their significant other if they're in a straight relationship, because men aren't encouraged to be crutches for each other. And that's why like people are really loving the idea of bromances. And I'm like, bromance should just be the typical male relationship. Yeah. Like, be friends with each other, emotionally connect with your friends, like.
And that's the thing, guys. Guys just want to hug. They just want you to tell you that they look great today. Like, guys really do want that stuff. They really do.
Where did Terry go?
he's just listening. He recently dyed his hair red, so when he blushes, it's a little harder to tell. But he's agreeing. Don't worry, I can tell by the shape.
All right. Yeah, I agree.
I think we've kind of gone over. We wanted to talk for an hour. I think we've gone over that hour.
Yeah,
mark.
I think
we've
the
only
first
been live
video,
for 56 minutes, so the first video will be about an hour, so that's good. We did it.
we were able to conversate.
Yay.
See, I think it's so funny that all of us are always telling people, like, yeah, talk, communicate, and it's like when all of us get together, it's like, it's like, what do we talk about?
Because we don't talk in person most of the time.
Yeah, true.
We're messaging when we get a chance.
It's always nice to be able to.
My thing is, I don't know what people are struggling with, because I'm like, I have my own struggles. I don't necessarily know if that struggle is true for you, so I don't know if you want me to talk about that struggle. Like,
yeah.
Because, since I've discovered that I'm aromantic, I've been going over my, past relationships and being like, that explains why I did that. And here's how I missed the signal that this was a romantic thing. And I just was like, okay, yeah, we're doing that. That's something I feel like I should probably have talked about. But, I'm like, how many people really want to hear what a romantic is struggling with?
I just think, the most important part of what people do on Instagram and on Facebook and stuff, who kind of give a voice to the community like our page does, is us coming on here and being like, this is what I'm going through, and I'm sure there are other people who are going through it, and I think we all got to talk about it, because we don't have, those, we don't have the Kardashians. We don't have, those celebrities where they're in these the media's on these relationships, and, we don't have that many resources. So I think it's nice that the community has all these different social media platforms. And I guess now we can check YouTube off on that box too, where people can finally come and watch people who are different kinds of poly and non-monogamous talk about the things they go through, and just kind of help people relate and help people see that your community is here, it's in your hometown, and it's growing.
Yeah,
definitely. Sure. I think there's also there's probably more celebs who are poly and they just never been poly's a thing you can do, and in the public eye, you're expected to be monogamous, and not being that is probably very harmful for careers and whatnot.
Well, I think us, all of us, the page, our new YouTube channel, I think all of us kind of being out in the open and sitting down and talk about, how we talked about today, and just kind of getting the channel off with a good kick. And I think it's great that people, will hopefully watch the video and hopefully get an answer that they were looking for, or hopefully get reassured on something that they've been thinking about. And I think, hopefully we can do these maybe once a month and talk about, some of the topics that we get most DM'd on the page, and people will have a place to be like, wow, so there really are, all these different people from all across the world who are running this page, and they all have these problems, and this one's like me, So I think it's good for us to be in the public eye, doing what we're doing, and just letting people know, hey, it's okay if you're here, and it's okay if you're queer.
Yeah. And as different as all three of us are, there's even more admins on the Poly Inclusion page.
Yes, there are many more. There are so many more, and we have new ones, and hopefully they will be in our next videos. And I think we've kind of got to the point where, I think I have enough admins now to kind of help out with the messages and the comments and stuff. We might add one more, but hopefully the next video, it'll be all 7, 8 of us together.
Also, if you guys have topics that you guys want us to talk about, or questions about things that we didn't reach, you don't want to reach out to us on YouTube, we have an Instagram page where you can DM. We do check our DMs, guys. Just life gets, and right now there's the coronavirus, so we have plenty of time to answer.
Yeah.
Answer DMs.
If you message us at 2 a.m., a different set of us will be awake to respond than at 5 a.m.
Yes. Someone will always try to be there, We always thank you guys for watching. We always thank you guys for liking and commenting and going on the live streams. And now some of y'all have followed us over to YouTube. And, you know, we appreciate people who deal with the weird posting schedule. And, you know, some of us aren't as tech savvy as Mark is over here, but we all try. And that's why we're here for you guys, you know. So if you want to see more of us ramble on about the things we go through and advice no one asked for, you can subscribe, you can like, turn on the bell, comments.
We can have Terry
Don't watch
message us
YouTube.
questions and we'll pretend it's a listener or a viewer.
Yes.
You know what we should do? Just spitballing this. You may want to. There's a parade going on. Sorry, there's a parade going around outside my window right now.
I love a car alarm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's ambulances and fire trucks, and they're just doing a parade, and I don't know why. No one told me there was going to be a parade, and then there's a school bus. Okay. So, back to my thought. We should do a Q&A answer where we take all the questions you've asked, and we'll do a YouTube session like this, and we'll answer the questions.
Definitely.